Okay, this is a sanding block that, actually it's a sanding stand that I constructed. I basically just looked at what everybody else was doing and decided that I didn't want to put a 2x4 in my vise. I only do that unless I'm polishing something really large. This will house anything up into about 17 inches beyond. This is my sanding block that I use to do all of my work, whichever direction I'm going. It's just a piece of oak that I polished down on the handle, and then I had a piece of leather I glued to this piece, to the bottom piece that the actual contact is going to be made on the blade. It's designed in such a way that I can take my sandpaper, which I use. These are my foundation papers, from 60 grit to 120 to 320 to 400, and then from there I'll use my really fine grit papers, which will go from 800 to 2000. So I keep a fair supply of those around. But the way my block works is that you basically take one strip of paper, pretty basically line it up, giving yourself a little bit of overhang. I don't know if you can see this or not. Okay, give yourself a little bit of overhang. Take one finger, just fold up the edge until you've covered about 3/4 of the back. Okay, and you just grab a hold of it, keep a nice tight fit, and just wrap it around the block. You should end up, the part that's in your hand should be holding the last 1/4 of the paper. The part that's going to contact the blade is right here. So with the 60 grit, I want to obviously go against the grain. I obviously want to go against the grain like this. I want to get a consistent, even stroke, all the way up and all the way down. Since it's such a small blade, I don't have to worry about only working one section at a time, because I can do all that right here. Okay? You want to make sure you come well beyond. Okay. You want to make sure you polish. You see where your notches are for your ha and your munye? You want to make sure you're polishing at least 1.5 inches beyond that. Okay, because you're going to actually do your decorative file work back here, but your habaki is going to come up and fit up in here, and there has to be a polished surface for it to come into. Otherwise, where you do the decorative file work will cut into the habaki and will eventually wear it down, because obviously the steel is harder than the copper. Okay, so for the most part, I basically just come in and I'm going at an angle. Okay, I'm just basically going at an angle, just working it, getting everything. And you want to make sure that you pay special attention to this section right here on the ha side. Okay, this is where your edge is going to be. Okay, but it's thick. Okay, because you also got where your nakago is going to come back through here. Okay, so you got a taper right here, so it's going to be thick. So you got to make sure you pay special attention to here. I basically go up and down from edge to spine, working my way up and down the blade. My ultimate goal is to get a consistent series of scratches in the blade. Okay? Now, when you do that, all the other scratches on this blade that are going the opposite direction or at an angle to where you're polishing will show up really well. So you'll be able to look at this and see, okay, well, I got scratches that are running both vertical and horizontal on the blade. Okay, so I got a little bit of work to do here. So, and as I go, I sometimes will rotate the blade, because you'll work one side of the paper more than you'll work the other side. Okay, so basically I'll just switch it over, come back, and you'll feel the grit. You'll feel it kick in with the new grit. Okay? Now there are some people out there who use oil on their blade to give them a consistent cut. Okay? Because basically you're wearing the paper down and you're wearing it away. The goal is to keep a nice fresh grit always available. That's why I like this 60 grip. I like to hit these blades with the 60 grip right off from the gate, because it allows me to get in there and really cut good and cut deep and cut my edges. So from this point, I see I still got a lot of work to do here. I probably got about another hour's worth of work on just this side alone, okay? And you want to be careful as you polish not to get too much fingerprints over it and stuff like that, because the oils from your skin are in essence acidic, okay? Well, not acidic, but they will create rust on your blade. If you've ever had somebody touch a knife that you own, it's high carbon steel, within a matter of hours you have a nice little rusted indent around that area, because your sweat is it's a part oil, but oddly enough it's called urea. Okay, you actually sweat urine, which has got a slightly acidic tendency to it. So you got to be very careful when you're working with these blades, and you don't want to wait too long. Now when I'm done with one side of this paper, I'll unfold it to just this edge and I'll tear it off. I do not waste this paper, because there are sections on this paper that I can cut off that are still good. Waste not, want not, because this paper is expensive, okay? So you keep handy everything that you tear off from there, and then you cut off all the good stuff and you reuse it later for something that you might need. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. And as you can see, I'm not really placing a whole lot of pressure. I'm letting the paper do the work. You put a lot of pressure, it's just like filing. When you put a lot of pressure on the steel, you cut gouges. Basically what I want to do, come in and remove scratches. Now, given the nature of the fact that I'm also working on a very hard surface here where the hardened edge is. Okay? Got to keep all that in mind. So your job is easy and hard at the same time, because you're removing steel from a soft section and you're removing steel from a hard section. So you really got to be careful. You got to really pay attention to what you're doing and how you're doing it. So for those that have questions thus so far on what I'm doing, it's just be careful, because when you finally get the sharpened edge, okay, and you're polishing, you got to make sure you're aware of where your fingers are at all times and where the paper is coming into contact with the blade. Because at any time, you're in the mood, in the groove, and you're polishing away, you're just not paying attention, and next thing you know, you got a gash. You get a gash down your fingers. Like I have a scar right here that you probably can't see. It's a product of polishing. I wasn't paying attention, I got cocky and decided, hey, well, I'll just just moseying around this blade and not really give it the respect that it needs. And that's really what it amounts to. You give the blade the respect that it needs, be aware of the surroundings, always keeping the point inward of the direction that you're working, because if you have it outward, well, the chances are you're going to disembowel yourself, because you'll come putzing through your shop and you won't really be paying attention. Next thing you know, you'll turn around real quick and you have a nice gash in the side of your hip. So take care, be careful, okay? This is not just a toy. This is the ultimate purpose of this blade, is to be razor sharp, okay? And its only single purpose design was for war, and it is a weapon of destruction. So give it the respect that it requires, because when you don't, that's when you pay the price.